the AI Kubernetes Show.
Hello, welcome to the AI Kubernetes Show. My name is William Chia. I am your host today, and I'm very excited to be talking here live from the KubeCon show floor about AI, Kubernetes, platform engineering, and all things software development. Today, I'm very pleased to have my guest, Rob Koch, who is a senior principal at Slalom, as well as a CNCF co-chair for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing group. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, William. I appreciate it.
So in the world of AI, some folks are very excited about AI and they like what it can bring. And some folks are not as excited. They think maybe it brings more challenges than benefits. On which side do you find yourself more on? There's a lot of challenges to overcome, or there's a lot of benefits to be seen?
So that's why I needed you to ask me again. I needed to make sure that I wasn't hallucinating my answer. So, so anyway, obviously, because of that, AI has challenges, of course, here and there. And I'm more of a supporter on the AI side because it's promising. I think it has potential. I mean, it's already changed and transformed how we do our work today, right? So I'm starting to use AI and as a crutch at first, and now becoming more dependent on it. And we're just increasing our dependency on AI. Companies are shifting their businesses, their business alignments also to focus on AI. And I'm already seeing a lot of that. So we're at that stage. I think we're not there where we can completely ignore or shut it down anymore. And so I think if people aren't using it, they'll probably fall behind. And so when you fall behind, then you potentially could have missed opportunities, and people need help with implementing their AI systems and things like that. So we're doing a lot of support by strategy, with implementation, as well as helping with security in their AI, and also with testing it out. So a variety of things.
Okay, this is very interesting. You in your role are doing support and implementation with organizations that are trying to adopt AI. Can you tell me about that work? What are some of the challenges that you're helping people to solve for?
Companies have various challenges, and it's almost like, where do we start with that? How do we develop that plan? How do we kick it into action? Those various companies and their employees might not have the skills quite yet either, or maybe they don't even have the time. So focusing on their, current business at the same time, their day-to-day work, they might not necessarily be able to spend time doing the research, put their regular work on hold, do the research, do a POC or a proof of concept, an MVP, something to get that going before they can, let's say, graduate to the final product. And so that's where we help a lot with that. And those challenges, that execution, when companies really get going with it, we have to prove the know-how that we have to make sure that AI works as expected. I was trying to think of one example in particular, but I see, like, out in the public, not my particular group, but sometimes I see with AI, it's going off the rails, so to speak. Like, we're chatting about buying a new car, let's say, and then the AI ends up telling them, like, oh, you can have the car for free. How do you prevent those kind of things, or those situations from coming up that might embarrass the companies that are trying to use it? It's the kind of work that we've been doing a lot in Slalom.
Okay. There's very famous use cases of Taco Bell does the drive-through with AI, and it gives them 1,000 cups of water, 1,000 tacos. These large failures we hear about. What's the advice for mitigating for this type of huge failure?
You probably have to add some guardrails. You might have to add some checks, have those in place, using AI to do the checks against the other parts of AI. So things like in the United States, we have checks and balances. So we've got things like our judges and our executive and legislative branches. And so with those, they keep each other balanced together. So we more of that with AI now, I think. And so it's sort of the wild, wild west at the moment. And I think we just really need to hone it in, slow down a little bit. But AI is coming at us so fast. People feel like, again, like I said, they might feel left behind. Companies feel like they need to keep up. And right, so with that, the shareholders and things, people are being held accountable for that. What's good, what's bad, all those scenarios. So those are some of the challenges I think that we face with AI transforming the business so fast that they really need more strategic things, down on paper that they can follow, being able to pivot if they need to. Like if AI has a release of new features, it could be available to pivot and run in a different direction.
Okay, this is a theme that we've heard about, moving slow to move fast. To start out with strategy, start out by writing things down, but others have the approach of just jumping in and seeing what works. So I'm hearing from you the strategic approach, writing things down, making a plan before you execute. In terms of the folks that you've worked with, when they go to develop these strategies, where are some of the places they start? When they start to write down their strategy with regards to adopting AI in their organization, where do they start with that? How should they be thinking about that?
Oof, that's a loaded question. Loaded questions, I should say. The balancing act of move fast, fail fast. Some people take that approach. Fail fast can lead you definitely to some legal and regulatory issues, embarrassment. I think it really needs to be a balance. And I think sometimes when you move fast, you might lose money too. So I think we have to work from the outcome. What do you want out of AI? What are you expecting to get? Where are we going with it? Is this going to be driving new business for you? Is this going to be handling the current business strategy and then working our way back from that? I think we could have a focus by doing it that way and taking that approach to working towards that goal of, implementing the existing tools out there. We know that they're proven to work and you can integrate them with your current systems. And so, yeah, I think that's how we go about it.
What's interesting to me is I have been mostly speaking with technical practitioners such as yourself, engineers, engineering leaders, and all of us in the engineering world are saying things like, have a strategy, begin with the end in mind. What is your purpose and goal to achieve? And this is somewhat different from where we hear other places that sometimes leadership puts a mandate of adopt AI, but we don't know why. And so I think this is sound advice to say, what is your goal to achieve? It is an engineering mindset that not everyone has, but sounds like everyone could benefit from.
Right, exactly.
One of the other challenges, though, for the folks with an engineering mindset is we're used to mathematics, input, output. You put something into a function, you get something deterministic out. And
Right.
AI is non-deterministic. So for engineers struggling with shifting their mindset from a deterministic input output mindset, now in the world of AI, having to deal with probability, what advice do you have for other software engineers or other engineers as they try to adapt to this change?
So a non-deterministic system like AI might not have the right result that you're looking for. So you don't have to like constantly, you have to constantly test it. You have to check the work. So how do we do that? How do we automate that process? And that's where you have to build, the guardrails and all the things we talked about. Bringing AI into the picture, then we'll have AI will also be, I wouldn't say check it against AI or like using another form of AI maybe, or limiting the information that's being fed to AI. So I think if you want a better deterministic result, it needs more context, it needs the right prompts, it needs the specs, bringing all of that into the picture to make sure that AI stays focused on the task at hand.
So the guardrails to implement are ensuring the context, not too much, not the wrong type of data that has disastrous results, but the right type of context aids in getting good answers out. And then also limiting the use cases for when it's ill-suited. This seems like really strong advice. I'm curious, from your perspective, what are the AI tools or mechanisms that you're personally using or involved with? Yeah, I'm curious, what do you use like either in your work or infrastructure or systems?
There's so many tools out there, and even many companies' products that are that vary as well. And like Outlook, for example, Teams, it has, a Copilot that's built in. It's there. I use Google Meet sometimes. Their email as well. So Gemini is also integrated there. AWS has, a lot. I do a lot of AWS work, and so they've got Q as their tool. I mean, you can really just jump around and work with different AI tools on my daily basis. I do. I'm always looking for ways to automate my work. And so as I'm developing the tooling and the AI, maybe I'm using Claude, for example, and then there's sub-agents and skills that you can add to Claude in certain situations where you want to automate some of your work. If you have like a timeline, you want to go from, here to here for this amount of time for the work to get done with X number of people. This is what that looks like. The goal of AI is to reduce that timeline, right? Bring it back to a shorter time frame. And then what happens with the rest of the timeline? Is it gone? No, of course not. A lot of companies will fill that in, all of the gaps, and will probably add even more work, right? So AI will be automating tasks right now, and will end up doing much more work because of that than we would have expected, at least I feel, in the future. So that's kind of why I say AI is not something that we should be afraid of. I think we should use it. Help yourself automate your tasks and your work. Help yourself with AI in that regard, and maybe it can give you ideas to spark, your creativity.
Mm.
So that's kind of how I feel.
I like this one use case where you're saying within Claude, you are setting up some sub agents. And this is something we've heard a little bit about today. I'm curious if there's an example of something you were working on recently where you said, this is a task that's well suited for some sub agents to work on. What was the task? How did you set up that system?
So I have many different tasks for different things. One project was upgrading of a database. So I had to communicate with different teams in this process, and I was using Claude to basically analyze the database logs, how much traffic was on the database, for example. Is it being used? There's a lot of FinOps aspect to it as well in this particular example. So I was using the sub-agents to tell me, okay, so look at the logs for me, diagnose and analyze the logs for me, and then tell me if the database is right-sized, right? If it's over-provisioned or under-provisioned, those kind of things that I would ask it to do for me. And at the same time, using the engine to do things like Elastic Cache and Redis, Valkey. And so we were using that to right size and check the traffic. And then also it would help me draft an analysis from that and be able to create a documentation that I could hand to each product team and say, hey, this is what it looks like, and push it out and automate it. I don't have to sit there and think about pulling this in and manually and then making it look good and then, buttering things up and making them look all nice. Now it's just, bam, it's there. AI just dumps it in my lap. And then I use that to present the evidence to the teams of what it's found. But of course, I do check the work, just to be clear.
Yeah, I love this use case of analyzing logs where there's a lot of information, very difficult for a human to parse, very easy for a robot to parse. And you are using that to dimension and provision the architecture, the size of the cluster, the nodes, the database, and even the services, and then even to generate the documentation. And all of this are things that you could do without AI. I'm just curious, that same project, if you were doing that all on your own or your team was doing it, how long would that take? How long did it take AI enabled?
We're software developers. We're really lazy people. We like to offload a lot of work. And I don't want to do this, that, or the other thing. It's tedious and repetitive work sometimes. So that's why we design our code to not be repetitive. So the famous, don't repeat yourself phrase, DRI, right? Don't repeat itself. And so, yeah, or DRY, dry, it's dry. Keep the code dry. That's what it is. So same with AI. It's helping me to reduce the repetitiveness, the mundane tasks. There are things you have to do, and you have to do them over and over again. Sometimes, as your business evolves, the business changes, and you have to be able to double check some of those things over and over again. Now we can build tools that generate that on their own. A lot of companies out there, like for example at this conference, those are such tools for doing that.
If I am understanding the advice, in the same way that as software engineers, we have built into us this idea of dry code, that is a good use case for automation. The things that you find yourself repeating, the question that comes up, or one of the topics of discussion, is that if you have to work to do something, there is something to the process of working. It changes you. You learn while you're doing that. And if you offshore that, if you just send that to AI, if you get AI to do it for you, then you aren't learning. And so even though as good engineers we want to be lazy, in some cases if we're lazy, then we're not learning and we're giving something up. So I like the idea of if it's a repetitive task, offshore it. Would you say the opposite is also true, that if it's not repetitive or if it's new, don't offshore that, figure it out yourself to learn that, to struggle through it? Or where do you sit on this front of when it's worth learning, when it's worth delegating to AI?
Yeah, so I know AI, in order to make AI work effectively, you really have to know the subject matter. So we still need opportunities to learn, give yourself time to learn the system, how it all works, how it's all connected, the human aspect of it as well. I mean, we're humans and we're touching a program, so we have to learn the human side of it. But also all of that, it comes together. So if you just blindly feed AI and it'll just be, delivering you slop, then understanding like the YAML, for example, would be very helpful, because then you can look through it and see if it's accurately structured, if it's got the right format, is it indexed the right way, your the indents or whatever. So formally being trained on that and being able to use that daily, that when you're looking through something and you're verifying it, you can detect when AI is hallucinating. So it's still important to know what you're working on and how it all comes together. You can't just let it go and not really ready for self-sufficientness yet.
Self-sufficient AI. Well, one additional perspective that I'm curious about is in terms of making our world in general, but specifically the world of software engineering and Kubernetes, more accessible to more people. Are there ways that you see folks using AI in order to be more inclusive, in order to invite people in order to enable greater diversity of people, or even for deaf people to have greater access to the world? Do you see anybody using AI for these types of use cases?
Oh yeah, there's many use cases, and oftentimes I'll use AI to help me craft and my language that I'm using with the various companies. What language do those companies typically use and what terminology do they use? I want it to be written, and I want it to talk about this, and then basically make it polished, like as a letter, for example, or a message or whatever you're sending. So I use that because as a deaf person, my language is not equivalent to the English language, and the competency is typically not as good as yours, because as a hearing person, you listen to the radio, you hear people talking on the phone, you're interacting, you have access to language everywhere around you. Whereas deaf people, our access to language is depending on our eyes. So we, read, of course. Going for a run, people have like an audiobook and they're learning as they're exercising, right? Deaf person, no go. So you either have to choose between, for me, what I want to learn, right? So that's part of it too. Finding the right timeline for AI, to help with the language part. So finding that timeline. If there's something I want to automate a few things just to get them out of the way so I can focus on more of my energy with communication and interaction, that might be one opportunity for that. I'm having a lot of fun with AI right now, with sign language recognition, actually. There's some companies out there that are using LLMs to help with sign language recognition. So that's been really exciting as well with AI. It'll help increase the communication access to more people. It will democratize. It's not there yet, though. AI is in the hands of proprietary companies out there, so But it is interesting where we're going. It's very exciting though, I think.
And so if I understand, one of the things that you taught me in London when I came to your session to learn some sign language is many people think that sign language is the same as English. It's a one for one translation, but that is not true. Sign language, American Sign Language, is its own language with its own syntax. And so the way you talk every day and communicate is not the same language that a hearing person uses when they talk and communicate. So you use AI as a way to make your writing sound more like a hearing person's writing in terms of the syntax and the cadence, even though the words, the vocabulary might both be English vocabulary. Is that
Right. The English word order is important. With signing, sometimes we switch those around. So similar to like Spanish or any other foreign languages, where you might switch the noun or the verb or all of those things around. AI can help critique what I've written, and it also helps with the flow. It makes it be more of a natural flow, I think. So that's where I use it to help me out there. But it is amazing with different sign languages that are out there. I mean, yeah, AI is open to it.
Nice. Well, Rob, I've really enjoyed having you on the show. The last thing I want to ask is if our folks in the audience want to keep up with you, where should they get in touch with you? How should they connect with you or learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a real easy way to get in touch with me. If you know LinkedIn / that typical path, and then it's Rob Koch. So pretty easy. Yeah, feel free to reach out. We can talk about AI all day long. I mean, we probably talked more about it off camera too.
Well, Rob, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you too.
Created by the team at buoyant.io.